What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. My name is Joseph. Today we'll be covering a Necromancer Bone Spirit build, which is not only used to one-shot bosses, but also to crowd control enemies, dealing massive AoE damage. So to start this video, I'm going to structure it to be short and sweet, so if you're looking for a quick build, you can skim through, get some screenshots. I'll have timestamps in the description, but also I'll have an in-depth guide later in the video where I'll go over each skill, the Paragon board, and how it all works together, and it should be pretty convenient for you to copy. I've have infographics throughout the video, and they'll also be in the description. And to start, I'm going to show the damage against Elias, the World Tier 3 Capstone Dungeon. And I know this dungeon is relatively easy for a late game player, and I first soloed the dungeon when I was at level 59 using this same build. But with that being said, I think this dungeon will be a good benchmark and a good representation that most players have experienced and can relate to. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be consuming the corpses here for extra damage. And now we're going to go ahead and start the Elias fight. It's going to take him a moment to spawn in, but we're going to pop our ultimate, generate a corpse, and we're going to dodge his first attack, cast Tendrils, and boom, Bone Spirit, and 1.4 million damage. So that's how you one-shot Elias. Pretty much that's how you're going to be doing all your bossing and your mobbing. The Tendrils will bring all the enemies in for that AoE. But with that demonstration being shown, let's go ahead and get into the skills we're going to be using here. So for our general skills, we're going to have Reap at 1 out of 5 and Corpse Tendrils at 1 out of 5. These are really not there for damage. Reap, you're just going to generate a corpse and essence, and Corpse Tendrils is just going to stun enemies and make them vulnerable. But we also do have Corpse Explosion at 5 out of 5. And we have Bone Storm, which you can only put 1 point into, and Bone Spirit. Bone Spirit is going to be our main damage output when we have max essence, and Bone Storm is going to increase our damage. Very good with bone skills. And then optionally, you can have Blood Mist to 1 out of 5. It's an optional skill, like I said. It's good for surviving, but I've seen some people do it with Bone Prison and Bone Spear. And our key passive is going to be Ossified Essence for this build. And then into the roles and the perks you want, we really want to look at the right side first, at that right ring, where it's the base stats are already very good, but if you look at the imprint on it, it gains 20% critical strike chance for 6 seconds and then 60% bonus critical strike damage to corpse tendrils whenever you damage enemies with corpse tendrils, which is very good. Then also we have bone spirit buffs on the middle one, and we have ossified essence key passive on the left. Feel free to pause the video, take a look at it, and maybe get a screenshot if you want to copy this build for yourself. Then onto our Book of the Dead, we have a all sacrifice, so plus 5% extra crit chance, plus 15 maximum essence, plus 30% crit damage. That's pretty much it for the sacrifices. We have a few skills that are going to benefit that too. But let's go ahead and move on to the Paragon. The Paragon, it's pretty self-explanatory and pretty easy to do. You just want to focus on the bone skills, crit chance, crit damage, bone damage, maximum essence. Dexterity and intelligence are the main nodes that I'm upgrading for because it synergizes really well with the whole bone build. And then if you look down below, we have a couple of examples. So we got the Flesh Eater, then we got Calcified, Bone Graft, and Reinvigorate. Feel free to pause the video again, take a look at it, take a screenshot if you want to copy it. But with all of that being covered, let's go ahead and get into some gameplay behind the build, and I'll show you a little bit more in depth with the skills. So here we are in a World Tier 4 dungeon, and pretty much I'm going to show how the build works. So to get your essence back after using Bone Spirit, you're going to consume corpses. And also, if you will notice, I do have like a shadow blight underneath them, and that is attributed from my gauntlets here, which detonating a course summons a skeleton. This is a very good gauntlet. I recommend getting this for crowd control. It's a pretty common drop too for a unique, so it shouldn't be too hard to get. And then looking into the other build, get a barrier every time we use Bone Storm. That's our ultimate. Then our helmet. Our helmet and our chest plate don't really do too much for the build. Boots, pretty much this is all for survivability. Then we already covered our rings. Then our amulet, it's an invulnerability bubble. So let's go ahead and move forward. So pretty much with this build, you're going to be consuming corpses to get your essence back, creating them with Reap and Blood Mist, and then grouping all the enemies up and causing one big nuke. So here we're going to use Blood Mist to put a corpse right in the middle of these 3 enemies. Then we're going to be grouping up with our tendrils, and then we're going to be using our Bone Spirit on it. And I am lagging pretty bad right now, but hopefully you guys can see. Now this is a pretty difficult dungeon considering it's tier 21. I'm going to go ahead and group all the enemies up, get them stunned, and Bone Spirits. We actually did not crit on the elites there. We're going to go ahead and get our Bone Spirit back, and there we go. And then we are going to cast our ultimate whenever we get into some sticky situations here. But as you can see, we should be alright here, as long as we can one-shot them. Okay, this is kind of scary, but I think we are alright. Sometimes it does just come down to ability spam, especially in these more difficult dungeons. And boom, all those enemies are cleared out. And we are going to try to finish this dungeon up, but as you can see, I'm going to consume some corpses here to get some more essence back. And there's only 1 enemy left in this dungeon. Should be pretty free. Okay, here we are onto another group of enemies. We're going to cast our tendrils and corpse explosion. Go into blood mist to stay alive. And we almost have our tendrils back. Tendrils again. And corpse explosion to kill the remaining enemies. Should be good here. Okay. Okay, not bad. It was a little scary. Let's go ahead and move on. Cast our ultimates. Get all the enemies grouped up as well as we can. Tendrils. Explosion. Okay. We're gonna have to use blood mist here for sure. Okay, we almost have our tendrils back. Cast tendrils. Corpse explosion. Look at that right there. Nightmare dungeon complete. That was a tier 21. And we did it with the Bone Spirit Necromancer build. Then one shot that elite right there. And as you guys can see, this build is very powerful. Even under leveled, you can get this build up as early as level 30. Let's go ahead and clear the remainder of these enemies out, and I will go ahead and show you guys the rest of the build here. So here's that skill tree. If you want to take a further in-depth look on it, here's everything. Feel free to pause the video, take screenshots, whatever you feel is necessary to get the build. And onto our Paragon. I'm not going to go into extreme depth on it, but here is my Paragon board. I'll touch up on the important ones: 20% damage, 20% damage, then bone skill damage, extra crits, a lot of extra crit, like pretty much just going for extra essence, extra crit, extra damage. Intelligence and dexterity is mainly what you want to be investing the path nodes for. Then over here I am working towards this one. And my final Paragon is actually going to be, let me go ahead and show you. Is this right here? Flesh Eater. Consuming 5 corpses grants 40% increased damage. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much the entire build. If there are any questions or you need any help, feel free to drop a comment. I do appreciate you guys watching. If you want to help out a small content creator, feel free to subscribe, drop a like. But hope you guys have a good day.